You're listening to episode number 44 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. Now, in this episode, it's going to be a transformational story interview podcast, and I'm visiting with Marcus. Marcus is a current student of mine right now, and he's going to share with you how when he shifted one thing inside of himself, he had one of the best months ever. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to want to listen to this episode. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so today on this week's transformational story, I'm talking to Marcus. He is one of the current students in TCP, the Transformational Coaching Program. And I want to talk to Marcus, and I want Marcus to share with you guys more than anything about how him making changes in his life and him transforming himself from the inside out, how that made significant changes in his business and his outcomes very, very quickly. So I'm going to let him tell you the story. I'm going to just ask him some questions, let him tell you the story, and we'll just see where this goes. So Marcus, first, thanks for being of service to everyone and people listening, and thank you for our time together today, maybe helping them gain new perspective about how quickly they can change and what happens when they do it.
Yeah, not a problem at all, dude. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you, and I'm sure they're going to be glad to have you as well. So let's do this. Let's start here. Where were you before you came in the program? And you don't have to mention specific numbers, but like in your business growth or whatever, and anything else in your life you want to mention where things have shifted. Where were you before you started? Where are you now 12 weeks later?
Yeah, so I've always been kind of like a go-getter in my personality. So when I joined TCP, like my business was already running. We've doubled our revenue since last year. It's just getting to a point where it's like I'm starting to feel like this new responsibility of like, oh my gosh, like there's all this money coming into the business. At some point, I should probably be like a business owner with this, right? Yeah. So I guess I was kind of looking for a bit of clarity, and I had been recommended to you from a good friend, Brandon, who said, dude, just get in on it if you get a chance. He's like, it changed my business. It'll change your life too. So I just like took the plunge, For me, it wasn't even so much of like the investment. It was just like, I just knew I had to be there, if that makes sense.
Okay. But so your business was doing well. You were already up and running, right?
Yeah, we're running multiple six figures with an online business. We've been doing it for almost going on 2 years now, officially full-time online. So.
Okay. In 2 years, that's awesome. Where are you now in your business compared to when you started with me?
Dude, I feel like the biggest thing, if I could sum it up, is just like a whole new confidence and like just belief in myself. I felt like there was maybe, I didn't really have a clear sense of vision or purpose. I always hear people talk about you need to have your purpose and this thing that motivates you. And that was kind of where I came in. I felt a little bit lost, and it was kind of strange because like I said, you do all these things and you hit all these metrics and these numbers that people say, this is success. You're running a successful business, but I still wasn't fully sure of like, I guess me, I didn't have that as locked down. And that was kind of something that really, I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess that sort of sets the stage a bit more as to why I really felt the need to get into the coaching program with you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to take that apart. So number one is your business is on fire. You're doing really, really well. Okay. And you actually at this point are working in your business as a different person than you were when we met, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I want to take something apart you said just a minute ago, but how specifically do you think you're being a different person?
Wow. I mean, it's I guess the best way for me to explain it was like the biggest shift for me was realizing that, like you use this analogy of the be, do, have sort of thing versus have, do, be, how most people operate.
Yeah.
And when I came into it, I was like, one day I'll have this amount of money coming into the business. I'm going to, do and be this person. And I think that was the biggest shift for me, that I think it was like even in the first week, And it really just took us on this whole new trajectory over the 12 weeks, you know, and I know I haven't even seen what's going to happen from the seeds that have been sown yet, but it's just like a total different momentum, a whole different energy, a whole different approach to how we're serving our customers and our community right now.
Yeah, and let me dig in there. So I was watching some testimonial videos last night. I don't, when people send testimonial videos, personally, I don't watch them. And last night I recognized that I would serve me well because it gives me a better perspective on how to serve them in the community.
Mm-hmm.
But James Wedmore said in his testimonial video, which I've coached James one-to-one, but the same program. And James said that even though he had actually made more money, I believe the last quarter of the year than he had made, like he significantly increased his income. I mean, by like 7 figures in a quarter.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh my gosh, I've already completed the program, but now I am amazed at what I sowed back then is continuing to expand for me," which sounds like what you're saying as well, which is the intention of the program, because I tell people, it's an ancient phrase, but you cannot unknow what you know. So, and you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to tie this back to the audience and people listening, is that once you create transformation in your thinking, you don't go back to the old ways because you're not that old person anymore. There's no person to go back to, right?
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. I think that was the biggest shift for me too, Jim, was that I felt like in this world where everyone's giving advice, it can get really overwhelming to just sort of lead. And again, coming back to that, who do you have to be, the thing that you constantly speak to us on these calls and stuff. Like that really just hit home for me. And I just like, it's cool feeling like I'm in control of where I want to go with this business, and that I can take the confidence of this thing that's inside of me, this vision, and just lead it, and just know that the people who will resonate with it will find it and experience that, you know. And even just the timelines for how we've done things, it just stuck to my head, just like, who are you being? And every time I'd get into this little rut, I'd hear your voice in my head being like, Marcus, who are you being right now? What is this? Come on, get your shit together.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can swear or not. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I don't, so they don't have to edit that out, but I'm sure that's fine.
My bad.
No, that's fine. I'm sure we all relate to that. That's where we'll go on this particular call with you, is who am I being? And that's so nebulous for a lot of people, but I look at who and how and what ways are you being? Mm-hmm. And you got it. You got it, because I used to work that way. I used to work from have to be. If I had more money, then I could hire this, that, or the other. And if I could hire that, then I could be successful. Yeah. But I can't be successful because I don't have the money to hire the Facebook ads person. Therefore, I'm stuck in my rut. And let me add right here, while we're talking about this concept for people listening, I'm just going to bring it home and just be, you've worked with me. I'm just direct, and I'm just tell the truth. It keeps things really simple. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people listening right now, and there will be many that will say, you know what, I really want to transform my life. And providing if I am the one to assist them, they'll say, I really want to transform my life, but I don't have the money to invest in the program. So what they're saying is they're working from have to be. If I had the money. Exactly. And what you're verifying here, and I've said before, but I want them to hear it from other people, is that one day is never going to come.
Yeah.
It's never going to come, because unless you're being the kind of person you need to be to step up to the plate, you will never have. And if you'll never have, then you'll never do. And if you'll never do, you'll never create the outcomes that you want.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was like a big thing for me too, because we started at the beginning or mid-May, was it, at some point?
And yeah.
I know a direct correlation to me showing up and just asking myself, like, I think before I get to that exact, because I want to share a number, because I think it might hopefully inspire some people too. One thing that for me was made me a little bit, not super hesitant, because I'm usually pretty good when people recommend, but because it was a little more, it wasn't as like, here's ABC, very like, I guess you operate more from a heart operating place rather than a logical, and I mean, you do implement a lot of those sort of things, but being able to put yourself in a position where you can be vulnerable and ask these questions, like, maybe who am I not being as a result of not being in this program? You know, what am I missing out on? And within a couple of weeks of joining the program, I'm not saying these results are typical for anybody, but just for that instant shift for us, we did $60,000 of sales at the beginning of June. That wouldn't have come in if I wasn't a part of this conversation, if I wasn't looking inward and being brave enough to shine a light on the inside of myself and say, maybe I don't have it all figured out, even though I may look successful on the outside. It just took getting to a place where I could just be vulnerable. And that was something that it's absolutely priceless that you can create a space where people can explore these ideas of like, who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I want my future to look like? And that's what, that's priceless, dude. Like if you're caught up on the price tag, then I mean, who are you by not being in here? Like, do you want to be in the same situation next year? That's what I'd say.
And then what people say also is, well, I'll say, where are you going to be a year from now? And they'll say, well, same place. No, that's incorrect. You're going to be a year behind or another year behind because you've lost opportunity cost and revenue. And what I want to point out about the way that you were being, and then I want to go to the way you're being in your business, is the way that you were being in the program is that you were playing full out. The community is a very safe community. It's a closed group. People are very vulnerable in there about their fears and insecurities, which are things we work through very quickly. But who you were being is you were being present in the program. You were showing up. Now, when it comes to being, what do you think the number one way that you have been being in your business that's as a result of being in the program, that's contributing the most to your growth of your business?
I'll get you to repeat that one once more, because I'm just trying to let the question wash over me. If that
Let me
makes sense.
say it simpler. What's the most powerful way of being that you are now being?
Dude, just confident, like fully in charge and like leading. Those are the words that I feel like, whereas before I was like, I don't want to say I was coasting, but I didn't have that full confidence. And I was always looking external to find solutions when it was like, it's inside of you already.
Yeah. So let's go a little deeper with that. Is what do you think caused that shift, that epiphany, that aha that brought the confidence for you?
I think just from like showing up, like from doing the homework exercises. You have those weekly PDFs, from watching the videos, from suspending disbelief and just willing to dive into this and just have like no expectation, but at the same time, imagine the amazing possibility of what could happen if things were, the way you lead people could change everyone's life. I think it just comes down to having this almost like childlike awe and wonder when you approach it, rather than skepticism and all that sort of thing. And if you can get past that voice in your head, that's where real magic can happen. I believe that.
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot in the program, is the stop thinking, which with day number one, I start with the crowd, stop thinking, get out of your head, which is people's biggest limitation, that internal critical voice in the mind.
Yeah.
So let me ask you here, is week number one, the credo for week number one is 100% possible 100% of the time. And you said here, I just wrote down, amazing possibility. What does amazing possibility mean to you now?
Amazing possibility. What does that mean to me now? I'm just excited about life, dude. And the potential of where things can be, but also being excited in the here and now as well, because I think that's something that, especially people as business owners, it's almost like we beat ourselves up a lot more, or we don't allow ourselves to be as happy in the moment, because we're always like, oh, I'm not good enough yet, like because I'm comparing myself to people who are ahead of me or something like that. And I think just from a lot of this transformation in the journey has been like accepting where I'm at, but also the just potential that it can go anywhere, and that it doesn't have to be limited, and that it's unique to myself as well, and that it can be the journey that I envision rather than me. I guess here's a correlation or an example. I've bought a lot of business development courses, and I've always felt burnt out after a while, because it always felt like I was building someone else's business model. Whereas this just helped me get in touch with like, well, who do you want to be? How do you want to do this? And that's just been the biggest thing for me, dude. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you go back to that. So if you can share with us then, and if you don't want to, that's fine too, is what does being confident mean?
Man, I just feel like it's being confident. It's exciting. It's just operating from a place knowing that things work out and that things flow, and that you don't have to always feel like you've got to. I used to always want to be like a control freak, and I feel like a lot more now of the being confident is just allowing things to come, rather than I've got to do all these X, Y, and Z or Z, depending which country you're in, to make things happen. It was always felt like we were forcing things to happen, whereas now it just comes from a place of like a little more peace of mind, if that makes sense, a little less stress and anxiety.
Well, what's interesting is people listening that haven't been in the program, basically you're regurgitating, but you have become a lot of what you come to know in the program, because these are all things I cover is stop thinking and let go. Confidence is an illusion. Everything always has been, is now, and will always be fine. Just be in the moment. Peace. You can't do anything without peace of mind.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is these things have really actually, instead of learning these things, you have come to know these things. And for everyone listening, there's a difference between understanding something and knowing something. And when you know it, you operate from that place.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't have to be about the program, but it's an epiphany and a revelation of yours. Is you said, not in this interview, but prior, that you were surprised at how quickly you could change.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
I feel like coming into TCP or just any course in general, I always feel like, oh, there's a journey you have to go on over 30 or 60 or 90 days, right? Because you're signing up for a 12-week or whatever it is. But I think that was the biggest thing for me in that first week after that first call, was just like, you don't have to wait 12 weeks just to see a transformation. You know what I mean? It's just like, just choose to be different. Okay, cool. Like I literally moved the timeline up on this new course, or an upgraded version of a course, because I just realized, who do I have to be as the person who's going to serve our community across the world? Pushing this off till September and starting it is not the being I need to be. Like, we got to get this done now, because there's people who need our help now. Right. And it's just, it was just that flick of the switch for me that just made me realize, like, oh, okay. Like I know that, and even along the way, like, I did a lot of major stuff happen in that first week. And I just remember being so excited to tune into those weekly calls, because there's just, even if I wasn't asking questions, it's almost like there's this, almost like a universal theme that a lot of people are going through. And by the end of the call, I'd be on the queue for the questions. I'm like, actually, you don't have to put me on the questions, because it's already been answered now. Right. So I just think it's really cool, man.
Okay. So, when we look at that, so many people, well, first off, it seems you're appearing, or it appears that you've mastered or gotten close to mastering that all I've got to do is shift my being. And that's the hardest thing to get into people's heads. And I want to talk to people generally here. So I noticed, that's why I invited you to do this. I noticed that very quickly in your behavior in the coaching, is that you're just, week number one, boom, you're just getting results. I mean, things are shifting. Whereas other people are moving a lot slower. Mm-hmm. And the thing is this, is we have to ask ourselves, which I told people clearly in the group, but this applies to life. Who are you being? Who are you being right now? And what are you committed to? Yeah. So you were being open, you were being flexible, you were being a sponge, you were being in the group, all this kind of stuff. But here's something that's interesting, is that you were not being afraid to change. And you notice, and it shifts over time in the group, those that are afraid to change actually start changing. Yeah. And everybody's at their own pace, but you were moving very, very quickly when you started to change. If you were to coach somebody, and it's not about TCP, but if you were to coach somebody right now, you had a student, what would be the biggest lesson that and maybe you've already covered it, what would be the biggest lesson you've taken out of TCP that you would want to coach someone on?
The be, do, have. Like that concept, 100%. Like that little shift in how you approach your life. I mean, when I look back at a lot of the things that I was stressed out about in life before, it was because I was operating from the have, do, be, right? One day I will have all this money, Jim, so I can go and do this thing or get that thing, or, and I'll finally be happy. Yeah. And it wasn't until like just being like, oh, wow, that's a script that was like, I always think about like the mind, like an operating system or a computer. It's like, that's an old outdated script. Let's update the operating system here and look at how things are going. And, yeah, I think that was the biggest one for me. And I've even shared it with other people, and it just seems to be the one that always sticks, because a lot of people are always looking for the one thing that's going to make things work for me. Give me the magical formula, Jim. But I feel like the formula is just like getting your head and heart in place where they're flowing together, instead of just trying to like logic your way to a big breakthrough.
Yeah. And just being the person. So what do you see? What ways do you see? And obviously you're in business and you're an entrepreneur, online entrepreneur, and you're in the space and you see a lot of people. What are the biggest ways, I'm going to leave this general, what are the biggest ways you see people being in business?
I feel like a lot of what I see is there's a lot of either wanting to be somebody that you're not, or also like a fear or I feel like a lot of people that I speak with, or even people that we help in our community, you can help people like make money flow into their life, for example, by following sales training. But it doesn't change who you are at a core level. And if you don't address those things, like the money isn't necessarily going to fix the heart or the mind. You know what I mean? I'm not here to say that money's bad either, because I'm a big fan that it flows easily and effortlessly, you know? Um, so I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen a lot of people struggle with, is just, again, trying to approach it so logically of like, one day I'll have all this stuff and things will be great. But then a lot of people in the business community, especially, they get there, they get the stuff. And it's like, oh, I'm still this dude, or I'm still this gal. Like, what the heck? I'm not happy, or I'm not fulfilled, or I'm not, you know, in this amazing state like everyone seems to talk about it. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I was thinking last night that I make multiple seven figures a year, and I still have, even though my life's a lot easier than a lot of people, I still have things in my life that everyone else has.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't, the money doesn't change. Like people think that, oh, once I have the pot of gold, then I'm going to just live this la la life.
Yeah.
You know, I have a really good life, but I have stuff to deal with that everyone else has to deal with as well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to look here is, I observed coaching for many, many years that the way that most people be, even people in the entrepreneurial space, 70 to 80%, they are being completely fearful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Afraid to do anything.
yeah, afraid to do anything, afraid to put myself out there. People, which we take care of all this in TCP, but
Mm-hmm.
are people going to judge me? Am I good enough? Are people going to compare me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, is my funnel good enough? Is my copy going to work? And is my launch going to work? And then, oh no, my launch didn't work. Now let me feel bad about it. Let me beat myself up about
Yeah.
it. Right. You know, I'm not good at this. I can't do this. I can't do that. And at that point, it's just mechanics. Once you've got your funnels put together, you know?
Yeah.
And the biggest way that I see people being is fearful.
Yeah.
And even about a program like this is, well, I'm being fearful, so I want to guard my money and I do not want to invest in a program, but yet I want to sit here and be a victim
Mm-hmm.
and create the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You said something that I'm sure people, they maybe heard. I heard you say twice here, and it's not typical for people, but I've watched you. You said, hey, if I want something different, I've just got to be somebody different. What do you think has allowed you to make those shifts? Because it's not typical. Those shifts so quickly from, I'm being this person, I need to be someone else.
Yeah.
What happened here?
Man, I think that's like the $1 million question. I've never really felt like I've fit in with a lot of like the normal things, because and sometimes I really have a lot of respect for the amount of empathy you can have when you're in coaching calls with people, because there's a lot of times where I'm hearing the same thing. I'm like, just get over your crap already. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's just, I've always been interested in again, coming back to that concept of endless possibility. Like, what could life be like if we just try this? I don't want to just have to be constrained to, we operate in this box and that is all you can do, and good luck, you know? I just like asking questions like, what if things were different? And I mean, I came into TCP fully expectant that it was going to change my life. If I was willing to show up, if I was willing to leave, suspend disbelief, like I said, and just be present, because I've been through like tons of courses. I've been through all those things that teach you the mechanics, like you were talking about, like the funnels and the things that people get caught up on.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it just comes down to also knowing, like, for me, a lot of my purpose is rooted in seeing the success of our students and what we do. And like, we teach filmmakers sales training skills, for example. And when you see people's lives start to change and they start bringing in, like, being able to communicate the value of what they bring as creatives, and they're able to serve business communities and help clients, you know, and not just make pretty videos, like, that's insane. And when you start finding ways to help other people, at least that's what motivates me a lot more now, is just like, that's better than any high you could ask for. So, I mean, why would you want to get in the way of helping people, you know?
Yeah.
Does that
You
make
mentioned,
sense or answer your question? Or
yes, it does. And I want to go somewhere else there, which we do in week number 3 in the program, is unconscious values.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just told me, which I did not know, is one of your highest values is helping people. So share with the group if you would, and if you don't cover everything I want, I'll come back in here. But Do you recognize now, and everyone listening, do you recognize now how important it is to build your business and your life on your highest values?
Oh, 100%. And I think that I also want to add that there was an exercise, I believe it was week 3, like you said, where you had to do the
Yeah.
sticky notes, the Post-it notes.
Don't share any
I can't
secrets,
say
but
anything
yeah.
other than it changed
Yeah.
my entire life, dude. And when I went through that exercise and I saw everything in front of me, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm where I am. What happens if I just, I can't say too much, but what if I change some of these things? And again, it's just instant, right?
Yes. What if I shift some of my values? What if I make something a higher value to me? Because
Yeah.
we can shift anyone listening and everyone, we can shift our values at any given moment.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give away any secrets for people that
No.
do actually join me later, but most of us don't recognize. And what I do is I take people through a process to discover their subconscious values. But most of us don't recognize that our highest values are not aligned with the outcome that we want to create in business.
Yep.
And that's why we we keep spinning our wheels and spinning and spinning and spinning, is because we're literally being driven by these values that are not aligned with the outcome that we want to create in business. And then we wonder, why can't I motivate myself to go to work? Why am I beating myself up? Why is this so hard? So it all comes to values. So
Yep.
it sounds like your highest value, or one of the top 3 values, is helping people.
It's up there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I just think like that, now that I think about it, because it totally wasn't even on my mind until you brought it up, but that whole exercise in itself was like worth the price of the course alone. As weird as that sounds, because it was just like, I was able to see, like, it was almost like stepping out of my brain for a second and visualizing my life on paper and being like, oh, this is what took me to where I am, but it's not going to take me to where I want to go. Okay.
Yeah.
What needs to shift here? And
Yeah.
that was like such a really awesome experience. So just wanted to thank you for that. And for anyone who gets into the program, like, brace yourself.
Yes. And let me add there is, which we're not going to, again, share any secrets, but many people, and especially entrepreneurs, they don't have the values that they need to have to be a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then they wonder, why am I doing all this work and working 50 and 60 hours a week, but I'm not making the money?
Mm-hmm.
And you also said something here, so I can pull just a lot out of our time, because you're a poster boy for the program.
Go for it.
But I want to pull something else out that you embody. In week number 11, we talk about the reciprocity of life. And we talk about that we build our businesses on service to other people. And when we do that, the money becomes a lot easier, because now we're not chasing money, we're attracting it through actually creating more expansion in people's lives.
Yep.
And I know you're aligned with that, but what's your take on that whole concept?
In terms of the reciprocity,
how you're using it. Yeah, how you're using it.
Man, I feel like it's one of those things that it helped me let go of the need to feel like I had to control everything. That was the first thing for me. And secondly, I feel like, and maybe this doesn't directly answer your question, and I also wanted to know your 2 cents on, was like, when you just step into being a different person, it's amazing how much stuff flows into your life as a result. Mm-hmm. Not just the money side of things, but like, we've had people who've reached out who wanted to help us with aspects of our business. For example, like, again, we serve the filmmaking community, and we had one of our students close a big deal. Like, it was a really big deal. And he reached out and just wanted to say, I want to thank you for it, but I also want to build this automation funnel thing out for you in your email campaign that can help you serve your audience better. And I was like, well, that's amazing, because I've never done anything with email, and I know it's important, but I just don't think that way, like analytically like that. And it's crazy how many people come into your life when you just stop operating from the fear of like, oh my God, if I give this money away, it'll never come back, or, and you just serve, like, how do I serve my community at the best? And it's like, every decision we've made since signing up for the program has gone through that lens of like, how is this best serving our customer? How is this best helping them like get out of their own way so they can start seeing the shift in their lives as well?
And then money starts piling up when we work from that place. Mm-hmm. Let me add. So you've been in the program, you've been with me for 3.5, 4 months now. And my whole theme, the underlying theme, is how best do I serve the community? Mm-hmm. What's in the best interest of people that I'm working with? Not for me, not what I'm going to get out of it, but how can I move all of these people the fastest?
Yep.
And you know that what I share with everyone in the group is that's where we work from, because when you do that, then what happens is people people identify with the mission. They're like, I want to be part of that. Because, we talk about in TCP every week is that the world needs us to transform, because the world's in a lot of distress.
Yep.
And the more that we transform, the bigger impact we can make in the world. And to give an example to the audience, people listening, somebody messaged me yesterday that's in the group you're in, and she says, what if I start a movement in the group that everyone in the group post on social media their biggest takeaways from this program? What can we do then?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? I please, I'm not complaining. Please, if you guys want to do that, that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I see that, and everyone listening, what people do, and Marcus knows this, it's a huge mistake that people make. Let me earn money and take care of me and my needs first and my business. And then when I'm taken care of, which I just did a couple of episodes on this with Ione and then one of James Wedmore.
Yep.
Then when I've taken care of my business and I'm secure now, I can breathe.
And
how can I help you? How can I help you now?
Yeah.
And they're working from the wrong place. And where I work from is let me be the bridge for everyone from point A to point B. Let me serve with an open heart. And every one of our programs fill up. I mean, I've got people now saying, hey, when are the doors opening again?
Yep.
As you know, through being in the program, that a large, over 50% of people repeat the program over and over and over again to stay in the community and to actually immerse themselves in the teaching. So yeah, we've got reciprocity. If you haven't listened to the episodes here on Ione, there are a couple of recent episodes, and the one of James Wedmore, go listen. Those are gold in my interpretation. All right, one more thing here and we'll wrap up, is you've mentioned confidence multiple times, but how do you demonstrate confidence? I mean, you can talk about the word, but and maybe I missed it, but what does confidence mean in terms of your action? Give me an example of a confident action that you now do.
I mean, the biggest one for me, I would say, was being confident in leading our community more effectively and quickly. Like I said, at the beginning of May, we just spent essentially the first half of the year creating a version 2.0 of our course. Like the past year, we've done nonstop coaching calls, and we're just trying to figure out how do we make this thing so it can work regardless of if we're on a call or not with somebody. And we got through that whole 4 months, and in my head, I was like logically saying, oh yeah, we can get to the next one in September, and then started Jim's course, and I'll do like this amazing thing where I'm going to go on a sabbatical and go into gym land. Yeah. And when I got into it, it just instantly, like, I got so invigorated and inspired, dude, to just take action. I got on a phone call with my business partner, and I was just saying, like, what's your schedule look like for the end of June? And he's like, it's open. I was like, okay, I've already booked a flight. I'm coming down, and we're going to do this next stage of the course. It's just being confident. And the other thing about confidence too, and I find this a lot, is you can't like think your way to confidence. Like, confidence also is built from taking action as well, I believe. And that's like my perspective on it. You don't just, I'm going to read a bunch of books to become better at sales, therefore I'm confident going into a sales meeting. It's like, well, no, you show up, you start doing it. It's like learning to ride a bike, and eventually you like might scrape your knees a couple times if you fall over. But that builds a little more like, well, what if I could go a little bit further? And for some people, they might fall off the bike and I'm just sad, or they might launch their funnel, or they might, they didn't buy on my webinar. And it's like, well, you just scuffed your knee. Who cares? Like, pick yourself up, keep going. Like, that's part of the process. If it was like instantaneous, like everyone would be doing it. You have to just keep willing to serve and to grow, because when you're in these positions of serving communities, you're going to have a lot of people who fling mud your way, or just, there's people who are like haters and all that stuff. And it's just like, if you let that get under your skin, how can you serve other people? So I just feel like it's like confidence is this wonderful thing that you can just choose to have it, but also you have to operate from it, and you have to do things. And even if it's uncertain how it may play out, mixing words up here.
That's okay.
Just doing it, like we made this idea to create the 2.0 version of our next level course, like the higher up one. And we didn't have anybody pre-sold, and we're like, let's just open it up over this weekend and see if people want to pay to join it. And then we'll also let them come and fly in and be part of filming the course. And we had like 10 people sign up for it, I believe. Like they said, it's just like, oh wow, okay.
Which you're
I would have been in the way of that for like 3 more months if I just didn't do it,
You're demonstrating what I've said in the course is, no matter where you are in life, people are always looking for you right now. Yeah. There's someone ahead of you and someone behind you, but wherever you are, there's someone behind you looking for you right now. Mm-hmm. A couple of more thoughts here is confidence. You've demonstrated also what I say in the course is that most everyone wants confidence, but confidence comes from competence. And to be competent, you've got to do something. And you know what? Riding the bike, you might fall over the first time, but you get up and you do it again and again. Now you're developing competence. Now you have confidence. Mm-hmm. And I want to point out that by nature, which we go through the DISC profile also to look at ourselves, you're probably by nature a high D. You're a doer. But I want to point out is that even though you're a doer and it's easy for you to take action, it's not that way for everyone. And even what precedes the doing is who are you being that's doing the doing. So your being, characteristics of being for you, you would be driven, motivated. Something that's apparent to me after talking to you in this particular call for this long is that you're highly driven by possibility. What could happen if? And that's exciting to you. And actually what drives you is that excitement that you feel from the possibility, like, what would happen if I open this door? I don't know, but I'm going to find out because I'm curious what's behind this door. So in some mini coaching to you here, a great place, a great strategy for you is always to work from curiosity, because that keeps you motivated. The what if we did this? And when you ask yourself that question, where your brain automatically goes is possibility. And for you, that's motivating. And then that sends you into action. All right. Anything you want to add we'll have, a lot of people listening, but anything you want to add to the entrepreneurs?
Dude, I feel like you even said something there just on the disc profile that I just wanted to emphasize as well. Like if you may listen to me and be like, oh, of course it works out. He's out there. He's extroverted. He's a loudmouth, go, go, go sort of guy. Make it happen. One thing that I really loved about the whole program and everything you do, man, is just really helping serve people and also help people become aware of like a lot more of like who they are intrinsically from like the brain science stuff too. Because a lot of people, like I said, you can buy as many entrepreneur or business building courses. And if you try to do these steps, but maybe it's not in alignment with the way you're wired as well, it can be sticky and it might make you feel like a failure. And that's one thing that like you just made it so abundantly clear from all these calls, and just like it can be possible for anyone, no matter how you're wired, no matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, no matter if you're, you love being in crowds or you hate it. Like there's so many ways you can serve. And if you're willing to just show up and get out of your own way so that you can learn to play at a higher level, that's where things get really exciting.
Let me add there and we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much. And to be transparent here is, this didn't pop in my mind until right now, is that I've been in the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, high performance, peak performance field for a lot of years. And for many years, I made multiple six figures. And honestly, that's kind of coasting because like, I got life pretty easy. I don't need to set the world on fire. But something just dawned on me that I want to share, and we'll wrap up with that, is I remember many years ago, I sat down, I read somebody's email, and I sat down and I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, but I don't know how to be. And that's what got me into I would not be here had I not had that original thought years ago, is what ways would what ways would a successful entrepreneur be? And when I started, the whole program's built on the being. And when I thought about that, that's what shifted everything. And when I shifted from doing an entrepreneur to being an entrepreneur, that's when I went from six figures into multiple seven figures, is shifting that component of my identity. Because everything hinges on that little razor's edge in the ways of being. And you have been being awesome. And I appreciate you showing up and sharing your story, because even though we move very fast and you didn't have the rags to riches story, at least for our time here, there are a lot of people that are already in flight and they're doing well, that are listening to the podcast. But they're like, how do I go from, the high fives to the mid sixes, or how do I go from the sixes to the sevens, or the sevens to the eights? And I think you're a great example of that. So thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. And for anyone who's listening, who's on the fence, get off the fence. Seriously, it's not that much money in the big picture of things. Like, it's really underpriced if you ask me. So just do it.
We should raise the investment. I'm going to keep it where it is. And people are like, dude, this should be $15,000 for this.
They're going to be like, Marcus, why'd you have to say that? No, I was going to get in and now he just raised it and doubled it.
No, I'm not. There's somebody, big marketers like, Jim, you should charge $100,000 for your one-to-one coaching. And I charged 25, and it's like, I was shocked when I found out you only charge $25,000 for one-to-one coaching for 12 weeks. But at some point we'll see where it goes. Right now I'm in the mode of serving as many people in the masses that I can for the ripple effect that we're making.
And
Dude,
that's really powerful too, dude. Like I said, the community aspect, it's one thing just to go through a course on your own and to show up for calls, but just being able to be accountable and have other people who are on that journey with you is priceless. Because
and
everyone's there with the expectancy or the willingness to suspend disbelief, or like, how could my life change if I just did the things Jim gave us in our homework assignments, for example?
then what's funny is which we'll go here because I don't, we'll keep this under 45 minutes, but when people just make a shift and they come back to the group and are like, oh my God, things shifted. I'm like, it's interesting how that works, isn't it?
Surprise.
You shift on the inside, things happen on the outside. Now we've got momentum and let's build on it. All right, brother. Thank you so much. Big hug to you, and I'll catch you in the group.
Rock and roll, dude.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Yep, bye-bye. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the interview and you got some great takeaways from listening to Marcus. I also apologize for the sound quality. I was using an earplug mic as opposed to my regular microphone, but nonetheless, you most likely got a great deal of value. And in my opinion, the biggest takeaway, which, this whole podcast is about that, is about when you change things on the inside, things automatically change on the outside. And, perhaps you heard the story of how he had his biggest month ever when he just started changing the ways that he was being on the inside. So your takeaway, which is obvious, is there's a direct correlation between your income and your revenue, which is on the outside, the correlation between that and what is on the inside and your ways of being. Okay, as I say on every episode, you do know that I'm doing the first of a 3-part series of trainings starting on September the 4th. So mark your calendar, and we will be releasing the times for that very quickly. Okay, the next episode. Now I've already shot. Well, that's the old video in me and the old habit. I've already created another episode early on, episode number 5, about bad habits, but I'm going to create another episode on that, and that's going to be, the following episode. And the reason that I'm doing that is I want to dig deeper into habits because, you might have heard me say before, is we don't get in life what we want. We get in life what we are, and what we are is a reflection of our habits. Now, of course, I go to many esoteric places, in this podcast, and I could say a whole lot more, but for now, I just want to talk in terms of what we create in the external world in terms of productivity, our money, our jobs, our wealth, our bodies, and everything else. Really just comes down to our habits because we are, the reptilian brain actually drives us, and research demonstrates that. Okay, so the next episode is going to be why your bad habits are so hard to break. So I don't really care where you are in your life, whatever, and you're there because of your habits, because everything comes to habits, is whatever you do, please make sure that you listen to that episode because I'm going to give you some very tangible takeaways that you can use to start breaking, if you didn't listen to the earlier episode, how you can start breaking bad habits very, very quickly. Okay, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you over on that episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.